Hello everyone, good morning. I am Marichel Pifferen, your reporter for today. I am here to give you my presentation. Today, we are going to learn about the nonverbal predicatives, the existential and possessive clauses, then the cross-linguistic patterns. There are some keywords that we need to ponder, like clause, like copula, and the copula verbs. Now we're going to learn the first one, the clause. So what is clause? Clause is a group of words that has both a subject and a predicate and functioning as a member of a complex and compound sentence. For example, Miko bought a new car. So we have one sentence and one clause. The second example is Miko bought a new car, but he still has the old one. So we have one sentence and two clauses. The clauses there are Miko bought a new car and he still has the old one. The next word is copula. So copula comes from the Latin word link. Copula or linking verb is a word or a phrase that links the subject of the sentence to a subject complement, such as the word is in the sentence. For example, the sky is blue. The word is function as a copula in the sentence. So here are the copula verbs. So we have the be verbs, the is, are, was, were, seem, look, sound. They are special because they do not involve an action. Let's talk about nonverbal predicatives. What does it mean? Nonverbal predicatives can be defined as the application of a nonverbal predicate to an appropriate number of arguments. This term is used to refer to all constructions with a nonverbal main predicate is accompanied by a copula. A nonverbal predication is not the same as a nominal sentence. A predication is a unit of semantic analysis, whereas a sentence is a unit of morphosyntactic analysis. Thus, a nonverbal predication can be expressed by means of a verbal sentence, example, a copula construction. Now let's talk about the existential clause. Existential clause is a clause that refers to the existence or presence of something. Or another definition is a clause having a distinctive grammatical structure which expresses the real or imagined existence of an entity. The clause construction, there plus verb, typically be, plus noun phrase forms an existential clauses, as in there is a God. There must be somebody we can ask. Now let's talk on the function of existential clauses. Existential have been associated with the functions of asserting existence of an entity, setting a scene, presentation of new discourse entities, as well as listing. They are structures whose meaning is connected to discourse. Such as an example, there is a God asserts the existence of a God. The word there functions as the subject of the sentence to introduce a situation that exists. It is called the existential there. So we know that the existential clause actually refers to the existence or presence of something. You present the existence or the presence of something in your sentence. You always use their existential clause. The unique point of this particular clause is that it has a unique formula. Now you use there as the existential word which would refer to the existence or presence of any object. Remember, in such sentences, you do not actually present an action or any subject, But here, you present the existence or presence of any object in a sentence. The formula you can construct with the help of the word there plus is or are depending on the subject, which will be followed after be, or say the is or the are. Now here is the formula. So there plus is or are plus subject plus extension or the noun phrase. If you find the subject is singular, you are going to use is. If you find the subject is plural, you are going to use are. For example, there is a God. God is the subject. So that's why we use is. So there is. Number 2, there is something wrong. Something is an indefinite pronoun, and we always use is instead of are. So same is true with number 3. There is someone in the house. Someone, it takes singular, so that's why we use is. Then number 4, there are 12 chapters in this book. This book comprises of 12 chapters. It means there is the existence of 12 chapters of this particular book. 12 chapters is the plural noun, and it takes plural verbs. So here is now the examples of verbs serving as process and existential clauses. So we have the types, the neutral, the circumstantial feature, the abstract. So for the neutral, we have the verbs that we're going to use like exist or happen, exist, remain, arise, occur, come, about, happen, take place. So for the circumstantial feature, so we have the time and place. So the verbs that we're going to use are follow, ensure, sit, stand, lie, hang, rise, stretch, emerge, or grow. So for the abstract, so the verbs that we're going to use are erupt, flourish, and prevail. Many languages from existential clauses without any particular marker by simply using forms of the normal copula verb, the subject being the noun or phrase referring to the thing whose existence is asserted. The fact that both from an intralinguistic and an interlinguistic point of view, the sample type of semantic relation can be expressed in non-verbal predications, with or without a copula, may be taken as an indication that from a typological perspective, the non-verbal predicate is the main predicate of these constructions, and that therefore those constructions in which a copula accompanies a non-verbal predicate can be seen as non-verbal predications. Examples. The term existential example is an attempt to capture the meaning conveyed by the following type of construction. So number 1 here, there's a strange cat in the garden. Number 2, there were lots of people in town. Number 3, there appeared a bright star in the sky. There is then followed by the simple present or past tense of be, or a small range of presentational verb such as appear, arise, ascend, come, emerge, erupt, exist, occur, spring up, or stand. The noun phrase following the verb is usually indefinite, as shown by such word as a and any. Now let's talk about possessive clauses. Possessive clauses, the possessive form is used with nouns referring to people, groups of people, countries, and animals. It shows a relationship of belonging between one thing and another. Another definition is of possessive clauses. Belonging to or ownership is the most common relationship the possessive expresses. Possession is one of the relationships which can be expressed by the locative clause type. Here are examples of sentences express some kind of possessive relationship. Each of them has a distinct function. So we have number 1, the woman has the book. So here, it describes temporary physical possession. Look at number 2, the woman owns the book. So it describes ownership, but in both cases, the possessed item is a definite, a specific object, one particular book. The number 3 example, the woman has or owns a book. It may be described either temporary physical possession or actual ownership, but the possessed item is some indefinite or generic object. The hearer cannot tell which specific book is intended, and the speaker may not even know. Corresponding to the semantic differences, we find differences in grammatical structure as well. In number 1, the subject, the woman, it's the possessed item, is a definite noun phrase, and the predicate expressing the possessor is a predicate phrase. In number 2, the subject again expresses the possessed item as a definite noun phrase, and the predicate again expresses the possessor, but this time as a bare dative noun phrase rather than a predicate phrase or prepositional phrase. In example number 3, however, has a very different structure. The subject, NP, expresses the possessor, while the possessed item appears as part of the predicate phrase, which contains the existential predicate there. Compare the indefinite possessive example, the woman has or owns a book. The existential clause in there is someone in the house. As you can see, both sentences contain the same existential predicate, followed by a bare noun phrase, example, a noun phrase with no case marker. There is no corn in the market is another example of an existential clause, but it contains a different existential predicate in place of there. In Tagalog, may, which expresses positive existence. Something does exist. And has no, which expresses negative existence. Something does not exist. This same two existential predicate can also be used to express positive and negative possession respectively. The existential predicates in those examples do not fit neatly into any syntactic category. Verbs in Tagalog take a rich assortment of inflectional and derivational affixes, but the existential my or there cannot take any of these affixes. On the other hand, existential my or there does not share the properties of any other lexical either. Now let's talk on the cross-linguistic patterns. Up to now, we have used the terms copula and linking verb interchangeably. However, some languages have a copula which is not a verb. In USA, for example, verbs normally occur in the middle of a clause. The basic word order is S, then or subject, then we have auxiliary, then the verb, and the object. with the auxiliary element indicating person, number, gender, and tense or aspect. The copula that appears in equative clauses, however, appears in the final possession and is inflected only for gender. Example: she is a girl. It does not fit well within either the category verb or the category auxiliary. In other languages, the copula may be an invariant particle, one that is never inflected but always appears in the same form and only serves as the marker or a nonverbal clause type. In the preceding section, we saw that the structure of a possessive construction may depend on the definiteness of the possessed item. This is not a special feature of Tagalog grammar, but is, in fact, a common pattern across languages. Definiteness is often a major factor in determining the structure of a possessive clause. A Tagalog clause expressing ownership of a specific definite item, like the woman owns the book, sa babae ang libro, is structurally very similar to a locative clause. English uses the copula be for existential and locative clause, but have for possessive. In Tagalog, has two existential predicates, the positive, may or mayroon, and the negative, wala. The negative existential is different from the various negatives used in other contexts. Why is cross-linguistic transfer important? It is because a developmental and linguistic interdependence between a person's primary language and secondary language has been proposed. Theories and cross-linguistic transfer may provide a better understanding of how a student's primary language knowledge influences his or her ability to acquire literacy in secondary language. That's all about non-verbal predicatives, the existential and possessive clauses, and the cross-linguistic patterns. I hope that you gained something from my presentation. Once again, this is Marichel Ferren. Thank you for watching my report.